component pieces, if neither side finds the right component pieces, that is the side that ends up losing more often. With the way that Sagnior has been able to keep Raravin at bay, not allowing any chip damage to go through. We used a harsh wind to prevent 3 damage. That's just how important it is to keep this elusive deck at bay. You cannot give them an inch.
Not even an inch. And look at this, we already have 2 Inferners on board with plenty of plunder proc, so we could possibly draw into some things. But here's the thing about the Ashe LeBlanc deck, right? It has A, challengers, B, really powerful units, right? A lot of the units, right now, the lowest power unit that we have, aside from Omen Hawk, would be Iceveil Archer. When you are able to get these other 5 power units out on the field, if you're playing Fizz Samira, you kind of have to block. You don't really have the luxury of saying, oh, you know what, I can take this hit, because that 10 damage that you take from, let's say, 2 5 power units swinging could very well cost you the game down the line, especially if you're not able to sacrifice any of your blockers.
Yeah, tough situation to put yourself in. We do also see Incisive Tactician in hand, so that can be a threat very immediately if Raravin's not able to swing back for enough damage. And right now, we did mention Shelly earlier, but I'm not seeing a Shelly in hand. In fact, we're going to be using the Warning Shot and All Out early on to trade out this Trifarian Glory Seeker. Still take 5 damage from the LeBlanc anyway, and we have a second LeBlanc in hand to just add 2 more damage in case we have trouble finding it later on. Right now, Sagnior is putting on a ton of pressure. Levels the LeBlanc.
I am everyone!
And this goes from awkward to unmanageable now that LeBlanc is creating those mirror images.
Yeah, and the mirror image in LeBlanc Ashe is so good, because whether you use it on Avaros and Hearthguard, let's say you want to beef up your deck, Incisive Tactician, if you decide, hey, you know what, after I swing, I want to go for another swing, right? So many good options. And I think even then, you also have Ashe. Ashe is a wonderful pick if you want to maybe get a double Frostbite on swing. And we see here, Raravin has gone ahead and stolen Incisive Tactician. Are we going to be able to proc the reputation? I feel like maybe it might not be necessary.
Might not be necessary, but I think that it's still possible for Shelly to buff up this board enough for it to work. It is a distinct possibility. Sagnior's Incisive Tactician is 6 mana though right now, so it does mean that they have this available right now. All Out is going to be punching in front, a ton of damage. That's what, 11? You're down to 4 HP already.
Like already? Oh my gosh! And like, imagine if we didn't Harsh Winds earlier, right? That 6 HP very well could have been 3. Every lick of damage that gets hit counts. You have to...
Oh my...
Oh. Elixir of Wrath. If there's some things... No. Like, there are some things that Wiggly Burblefish can make. It can make you a alert card. It can make you a toss card. But when it makes you something good, it makes you something good. And right here, we have Elixir of Wrath.
This is exactly what happened to me when I was playing in Raravin's tournament. I was playing in Noxtimus's first preseason tournament as well a couple weeks ago, or a week and a half ago now. And I was again against a Fizz Samira player. Now the lineup that I brought, I tried to target Fizz Samira. I lost the matchup 2-1. But besides the point, what ended up happening in that match that I narrowly lost, Burblefish created Elixir of Wrath, created this exact same card to get them to win. This Sigil of Malice is going through, sure. But there's an Elixir of Wrath being used now, and we have the Barb Chain, and we have the Pirouette, in case we weren't already convinced enough of the ability for this to work. This top deck Shelly off of the draw from Inferna was exactly what Raravin needed to win the match. Like earlier, don't get us wrong, like earlier we were saying, like, oh yeah, there's a lot of pressure that Sagnior is putting on. And that is true until Inferna drew the Shelly, and now the game's over. It's over.
Absolutely. Wow. And that's something that you have to take in consideration when you're going into these tournaments, right? There's a few decks you need to be looking out for. Actually, maybe just a couple, truth be told. Fizz Samira and Karma Set. Those are 2 of the decks that have been plaguing players on ladder and in the recent tournament scenes that we have had, and I guarantee you we're going to see them in the open. In this case, we very well see why it's so powerful. Look at this deck. You know, Samira didn't come out. Fizz came out, ended up getting challenged and killed. Didn't even need it. Double Inferno, 1 Shelly, we are good to go and in the clear. Inferno, although starting off as a 1-5 unit, 5 HP is a lot that you have to deal with. And look at that, having to bring out the bloody business just to survive, killing the Inferno. Are we gonna see this Samira's all out come down? That will give us 2 more, so we're gonna be on 1. Oh no, not even, because we activate Shelly twice. This is so broken.
Where's your
Yes,
spirit?
this is
Absolutely so broken. Oh my gosh.
When we first saw Jack announced and the whole coin mechanic, my brain immediately went to, oh, Jack Nami. And I was kind of right. But the Nami cards still proving themselves to be very powerful. Shelly absolutely carrying that game as the third champion. In fact, even more powerful than the champions, arguably, in this specific scenario. So, surprised it didn't get rotated, to be honest with you.
I mean, I feel like if it wasn't going to get rotated, what you really could have done was simply maybe make it once per round. I can see that being a nerf, maybe just having it be once. But I don't know. That Shelly is strong.
Yeah, if you make it once per round, all would be right with the world.
I think it would. Truth be told, it's like, listen, we've had to experience Nami. We've had to experience TF. We've had to experience what's the word? A culmination of Nami, TF, and Lee Sid. And you know what unit was always in the deck? Shelly. Burblefish. It's always these elusives.
It's really funny you mentioned that, because I, a little while ago, made a video on Varus Nami in Fizz. Those were the champions in the deck. And in that video specifically, I mentioned how the champions themselves don't matter. They are bait. Really, the star of the deck is Admiral Shelly. I say that verbatim in the video, and that is still holding true to this day. So, it's still a very strong card. As we go into match number 2, the Raravin is bringing deep, a tournament consistent contender we have seen and casted this deck so many times.
It's
reliable. It's reliable. Like let me tell you something. There are certain Runeterra players that you could always count on. A, deep players, and B, Mono Shurima players. They are loyal to the very end.
I'd like to throw in a third deck here if you don't mind me. Lurk.
You're right. You're not
Lurk
wrong.
Players are very loyal.
I am, because I know I was lurking on it the other day.
Called you out. Oh no.
You most surely did. Now, I think this is a really great hand so far for Rav, right? We have double lifesteal. We are getting some really good tosses. We have Sea Scarab, only 10 away from deep. So we're pretty good. Right now, if we're looking at Sagnior's hand, we do have double might, so maybe we can push a bit of damage, but we're really spell heavy, right? We can get Rav down on the field and maybe Samira next turn, but we're gonna cock. As long as these blockers are here, I don't know how this is gonna go. I will admit that maybe the mic maybe push some damage past the lifesteal, but that's a whole 6 lifesteal that we have to account for, and ooh, it's a tough position for the aggro deck, because mind you, right, deep can be built in a few different ways, right? You can maybe go for maybe a more control-oriented style where you're running vengeances, you're running the new kill card. Oh gosh, what on earth? I can't think of the kill card now. I'm about to call it Shadow Isles Culling Strike.
Soul Harvest.
Yeah, there you go, Soul Harvest. That's the one.
And I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm cheating and I'm looking directly at the deck list right now.
No, yeah. No, yeah, but that, and then I mean, you also have other variants that maybe kind of dip away from the control and sometimes go more turbo deep. I know I personally was liking a Soul Cleave deep, where you Soul Cleave either the Sea Scarab or you Soul Cleave the 1-drop, or even the 3/2, and then suddenly you're just tossing like a madman.
A lot of different options. I always feel the one thing that is most consistent about Deep is how it is able to always put you on a very short timer whenever you're playing. You're always having to worry about, okay, I need to make sure that I can set up my combo pieces before these very specific cards from Deep come through. And the thing about Deep's very consistent cards is that they are numerous. It's not just, let's think of Azarelia for a second, and I'm sorry to bring bad memories, but let's think of Azarelia for a second, right? Azarelia really needed the Emperor's Days and Irelia and Azir to fully push for its late game combo. Now, that was still pretty consistent, but I feel like Deep is kind of in a similar vein where it's not, it needs specific pieces, but it's not limited to just those 3 cards that make it really powerful. It has Drgn, Sea Scarab, Jettison, Deadly Wanderer, Jaw Hunters. Like, the entire deck is centered around doing that. So every single turn you have to consider, okay, they are working towards the combo that might win the game. And speaking of winning the game, I think we might just have it for Sagnior right now, because this Samira spell will go through and pop off for Raravin. There's no lifesteal left. There's no Vile Feast anymore. No Undergrowth. And
none of it.
1 of 2 goes over to Sagnior, and it is a 1-for-1 tie.
Okay. So we saw the power of Samira Leona. It is a reason why this deck is brought. It's able to make really beefy units and close out games with might, and even has some burn, right? I feel like the burn of the deck isn't necessarily talk about, whether it be Noxian Forever or even Samira herself. Remember, Samira, anytime she's summoned, creates a flare, which is already either A, a challenge, or B, a ping to the Nexus, a straight bullet shot.
Yeah.
Ooh, running the deep back.
Powerful card, man. Yeah, running deep back, Raravin's second deck, so is locked into this. We're locked into this Ash LeBlanc against deep deck, which means that from Raravin, the deck that was banned specifically was Karma Sect. And I understand why. With the lineup that Sagnior has, you don't want to be running into Karma Sect. You don't want to be giving them a chance to run into the late game at all. We're gonna get both players here.
Yeah, I would say maybe Nautilus is maybe a little bit of a break, because you don't necessarily want Nautilus late this early. However, that Maokai can go pretty nutty if you're able to get him on board. Because remember, anytime Maokai's on board, right, if you play another unit or even summon a unit, it's gonna toss a few cards. It's gonna toss 2 and summon a sapling. Going in for the free, we have a few damage out. I think something else to know, Kai, it's unfortunate that we're already drawing into 2 Soul Harvest, because in versus Ash LeBlanc, this Soul Harvest can't do anything, right? Because Soul Harvest, right, it's a card that you can only kill a follower or a champion for different mana costs, and it has to be below 3 power. Ash LeBlanc is running many 5 power and up units. I'm not sure if we're really going to be able to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that it really hits, Soul Harvest specifically hits in Sagnior's deck, is Omen Hawk, I believe. I'm gonna double check to see if that is the case.
Yeah, Omen Hawk and the Iceveil Archer would be the only 2.
Right. They are running Avaros and Trapper. True. So that's 3.
That is 3.
But I mean, come on. Avaros and Trapper, Iceveil Archer, Omen Hawk. Those are such low value units specifically to be getting with Soul Harvest, because Soul Harvest is a slow spell. That is a significant amount of time and advantage that you're passing over to your opponent to possibly remove a certain amount of stats, depending on how you feel about it. Undergrowth is thrown out here immediately, countered by the Elixir of Iron, so Raven's board. He's gonna be hurting here in a little bit.
I'll do it myself.
Tries to get the heal, but
I'll cut them apart.
I wonder. I feel like. Ooh, doesn't even go for the pull, saying, you know, like, go ahead, choose who you want to block. I'm still dealing with the same amount of damage regardless.
You know, what's funny is that we also have a second Elixir of Iron.
Elixir of Iron, so we're gonna maintain our board. Saying that's actually, I like that line of play, right? Because if you're Sagnior, right, you know, okay, this unit will die if I trade it. What if I just give my opponent the option to, right? So if they block the 5-4 with a 5-6, I get to save my resources rather than having to preempt if they commit it. Got Maokai down with a challenge, 2 double challenger, a 4-1 and a 2-1. We are going to be able to remove at least 2 units, but the Reckoning Kai, give me your thoughts on this card, because let me tell you something. The Reckoning has been one of my favorite cards in the game. I love being able to get board clears with this.
Such a cool animation, too. Oh, man, that, like, rips straight through your soul when you see it.
Straight through
Preemptive GG's thrown up by Raravin. They know when they've been beat. And I was going to say that last turn as well, if Sagnior didn't go for the Reckoning specifically, they also had the Incisive Tactician available for a rally. So Raravin's board might have also just suffered a preemptive removal anyway, and still lost the rally effect on top of that.
Yeah.
So really kind of dead always to Sunday. Deep, unfortunately, falling behind a much more aggressive lineup, and we will see Sagnior through to the next round.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not to say that Deep doesn't have a bad matchup into Ash LeBlanc, because obviously if you're able to get Deep soon enough, you know, you have big units, and your big units can challenge their big units. So it's like, okay. But something with Deep is, right, you have a chance of getting a bricked hand, and that's what we saw with Raravin. We had 2 Nautiluses in hand. We could have had any other unit, whether it be the 3-4 that heals, or even just the 3-2 that has lifesteal. Those would have been nice blockers. Okay, holding us down, because something you have to note with Ash LeBlanc, they do not naturally run Overwhelm. A majority of decks do not run Might. They do not run any of the equipment. So it's like, okay, you know what? As long as I can chump block, I'm good to go another turn, right? And I'm actually surprised to see that we maybe haven't seen some spice with Might being played in the Ash LeBlanc deck. But again, truth be told, you kind of don't need it, especially if you get the Ash combo down, because the units aren't blocking to begin with. So I mean, what good use is Overwhelm, you know?
I think you also have to consider that Ash LeBlanc knows that its resources are also better spent defensively. Funny enough, a lot of the cards that we see brought, like we saw in the first match, we saw Harsh Winds. We know that they bring Brittle Steel. We know that they bring Elixir of Iron. Every single spell is brought to defensively counter out and force better trades for Ash LeBlanc, because they know that what they have is their stats. If they can remove your board and contend in terms of just being this really robust board, at least in terms of power, then they don't really have a need for Overwhelm at the end of the day. And I think it's really clever in some ways with how they know that they're like, hey, I don't have to spend time trying to think about using a Might or a Noxian for overhead when my board is already strong enough as it is. So there's like some arguments that can be made back and forth there, but I do like where you're coming from in that regard.
Yeah. Now, this meta has been incredibly interesting, right? I feel like we've definitely settled, and I feel like it's kind of been put in a rock, paper, scissors, right? The big bad guy coming through, Fist of Mirror. We saw all the streamers playing it during the beta. They were like, this deck is broken. Everyone needs to play it. You know, everyone starts playing. You see it running rampant on the ladder, and everyone's just like, hey, yo, what counters this? This deck needs to go. We need to find a way to kill it. And thus was born, at least one of the decks is the Karma set deck, right? With that deck in itself, it had normally it's run with Ionian Piltover, so you do have the removal for it. And with that removal, it usually Caustic Rift is one of the bigger cards. You even see Caustic Rift featured in, you know, let's say maybe Annie Caitlyn, or maybe the more popular variant of Jack Seraphine. Those are really the decks that are using that kind of Piltover control. And then now when that came around, right, we have all these pings that are killing these low health units, 1 health, 2 health. It's like, okay, I guess we need some beef. And lo and behold, here comes Demacia saying, you know what, we gonna take the cake right here. How about you deal with these updated elites that we're still running mono, even though we don't have the allegiance card, because you know what do we need anything else for? We're Demacia. We got everything we need in our mono region. So now with elites tearing up the meta, you have to, players looking around, they're like, dang, you know, what is going to be this deck now? We've already had elites terrorizing us for some time. There has to be something that is good right now that can come through and save the day. Lo and behold, we get Ash LeBlanc. Frostbites galore. Big power units that can kill anything for, you know, in Demacia. And not only that, if you're getting into some of these maybe control matchups, not let's say the Shadow Isles variants, but maybe the, you know, Ionian Piltover variants, they're too big for the pings. So it's kind of like a win-win in that sense. And I do know for sure that when at least in my experience, when I was climbing on ladder and like Ash LeBlanc started becoming more popular, I was not seeing Demacia at all. Just gone, disappeared, dead. And I was just like, well,
Yeah.
I guess like is this what it looks like for Runeterra to finally be in balance? We have the little aggros be in the Ionia. Ionia is trying to counter everything else with his Ionia and his builds over, and then we have Ashtablanc, a classic deck coming back into the forefront. And honestly, I was really happy to see it.
Yeah, I'm when you look at stats for Ash LeBlanc as well, the top 4 best decks that it plays into are Quinn Vayne Aatrox, a Demacia deck, Jarvan Jack, a Demacia deck, Vayne Aatrox, which is technically a repeat, but a Demacia deck, and Quinn Gwen, a Demacia deck. So it's like this deck, you are so right. It is exactly what Demacia fears, is Frostbite. So this has been a very consistent case for a while now as well. I remember as well back in months and months ago when Sejuani Teemo was a combo that people figured out. This was a deck that you would bring consistently because of how well it handled mid-range, and that was because Sejuani freezing the board in the late game, like past turn 6, it froze out the entire board, and so Demacia just couldn't swing into it, and then you're burning them down with mushrooms and everything at the end of it. Now, of course, that's like an older example, but I think it's still an example that highlights, even across incredibly different archetypes, Demacia has always had troubles dealing with Frostbite, and now that we see Ash LeBlanc being brought to the forefront, in fact being the most played deck in the game right now, that means that Demacia just does not really realistically have a place in the meta, at least when it comes to its matchup with that deck specifically.
Definitely. Now I am getting word from our production team that we are going to go into the next match. Let's go ahead. It is going to be Sagnior versus Palita. Let me go ahead and set that up real quick.
Palita, Palicia, Pala. I see Pala on the. Sometimes these people like backflipping all of their names across the different platforms is a little bit funny.
Let's see if we can go ahead and add this individual in. Oh, we got K. Okay.
Because for example, on community gaming, you have Ducking Fork, who then becomes Farley Fangirl on Riot, but then is Crude Arrowhead in Discord. So you have to find make sure that the constellations align to try and get the right name. So it's a little bit difficult to try and find the person specifically. I think it might be Paula. We're looking at K64, but they don't have Riot ID, do they? Yeah.
Let's see if we can get that. If anything, we can always go to another match if need be.
I think we're probably trying to spectate them because we do have Sagnior's side of things, but we're trying to find another match right now. Talking about stats, one deck that we have been touching on, but I don't think have really talked about all too much is Karma Set. Karma Set, it does lose out to Leona Samira. I feel like Karma Set is this patch's version of Rise. Funny enough, it has Ionia, it has that sort of same mono champion centric idea. Like, sure, you have Set that's in the deck, but I do feel like the real protagonist of the deck, more or less, depending on what side of the board you're on, is Karma. You get to that late game swing, you get to turn 10, they have all these coins that have been built up, and they get it's a one, like, coins in Karma is basically a 1 mana take another free turn. That is exactly what the card does when Karma levels up. And that is how it feels to play against sometimes, when it feels like you're playing against Rise again with the lack of interactivity. But then, funny enough, its worst matchups are once again these go wide decks. Previously it was Kayle Leona with Noxus, but now it's Leona Samira is one of its worst matchups overall. And sometimes Kayle is broad, but it's usually those first two because, you know, more powerful champions all. Jumping into match, we find Palita La Puerca against INT Sagnior.
Okay, okay.
Against Ash LeBlanc. I
Listen,
am
Deep
having
is a
deja vu
favorite.
living in the Matrix.
Deep is a fan favorite. What did we talk about already? Now, I want to say that this hand, maybe at least for Palita, is much better. You know, you have some units that you can play. We are approximately 3 away from Deep with a Maokai level. We're 5 cards away from Maokai leveling. And in the hand of Sagnior, we do not have a champion. Mind you, we do have Trifarian Assessor, so we may be able to draw into it. And the thing about Maokai, right, when Maokai levels, that champion is going to obliterate your deck. You're gonna lose, go down to, I wanna say 5 cards?
4 cards.
4 cards, we're gonna go 4 cards, and they're non-champions. So if your champion is not in your hand, you are not gonna be able to draw into it. So for this matchup in particular, what you want to do is you want to make sure that, or at least you want to hope that you're able to get 2 of the same champion in hand. That way, if the game gets to the point where Maokai does level up, you're able to recycle that card consistently. That way you can be like, okay, you know, I'll just recycle it, I'm good. You know, I'm not gonna die to the deck out. And I just will simply have to deal with the board. Yeah, we have...
If I'm strange that I liked your point of trying to find LeBlanc and Ash before this Maokai level up goes down here, because we have the Jettison in hand. Meaning that if the Trifarian Assessor was played there, Maokai could have leveled up and tried to obliterate even further, but now that Trifarian Assessor is available in hand, we can't play it anymore.
At all.
We'll be knocking out 2 more cards.
We
from
really
our deck.
cannot. A completely dead card. Oh my gosh, this is so spooky. And we managed to top deck a Vengeance too, so we can remove any unit that may come down. We only have so much mana to work with, right? We can't even really play Rep now, because if there's a unit in our deck, we're also gonna draw. It's tricky. I want to say maybe we try to play for the rally. Hopefully our opponent won't be able to continually bring out blockers. From our end, we do have some blockers available, as well as kind of, I want to say, Deep's version of Vengeance. Mind you, it is the Obliteration Fish. What's it? Why can't I think of it? Oh, Devour the Depths. There we go. Have to think of it.
Yeah.
And that obliterates something, so which definitely a lot better than Vengeancing Vengeance, right? With an obliteration, any card that's obliterated can't be brought back, right? So if, let's say you're playing versus this, let's say you're playing against Darkness, right? And they have Miscall. If you obliterate that Viego or that Norva, they're not going to be able to get it back, as compared to a Vengeance. And we see Sagnior already trying, you know, going to go ahead with a Frostbite, maintaining mana for this rally. Here we go. Now, mind you, we can only going to be able to trade into. We can trade into 2 things. There's not really going to be a lot of damage going on the board, and that's the thing with Deep, right? After we're Deep, we're large enough to be able to contest this Ash LeBlanc deck.
The most damage that I think Sagnior gets out here is, well, okay, never mind. The Vengeance kind of
The Vengeance, okay.
ruins my statement, but I was going to say the most that Sagnior would possibly have gotten through would have been 2 damage, but removing the Incisive Tactician means that Sagnior can swing, but everything trades up into it. The Sea Scarab, the Mega Tusk, the Beat from Below, all of these creatures can easily block everything that Sagnior has available. The funny thing is that we don't even need to swing here. We can just keep waiting until Sagnior inevitably decks out because of the lack of cards that they have available now. But we're going to push for the damage anyway. We're going to say, hey, how do you want to... Would you rather take a bunch of damage to face or lose by getting milled to death? Now, they do play second Incisive Tactician.
Okay.
Which means that they have maybe a little bit of a lifeline. They are possibly going for the deck out, hoping that that last card helps them get over the top. Maybe they are running a One of Might. I'm not looking at the list right now, but if there is, I'm just thinking of possibilities that could be seen us to an end game here.
So tricky. Let's go ahead and open up Sagnior's deck real quick. Got Ash LeBlanc. No, pretty standard, like some Iron Bloody business. Yeah, we do have Reckoning.
It doesn't matter. A lot of these units are 5 power and greater anyway. The only thing that would remove from Palita's board is Maokai and the sapling. You still have the other units to get through anyway.
Because look at these units, Kai. A whole 7/7 for 4 mana. And mind you, Maokai is an engine in itself. We're creating a sapling every turn, and given that we don't have any push over damage, such as Overwhelm in the Astral Blanc deck, we have a chump blocker for basically every single round. At this rate, I don't believe there's any way for Sagnior to be able to get pushed past the damage.
Very different fate from what we saw from last round with Raravin losing out on Deep.
And this is, I mean, this is the power of it, right? Sometimes Deep, right, you get these really high cost sea monsters or your high cost champion being Nautilus in your hand early, and you're like, okay, you know, I kind of got to hold it out as best as I can. Compared to maybe this match where you're able to, okay, you know, I got my toss going, I managed to get Deep, and I managed to get Maokai leveled up. It's a very powerful engine if you're able to pull it off. And if we're looking at the stats for this, mind you, Ash LeBlanc has a 47% win rate against Deep. And right here, we're seeing that being demonstrated.
Yeah, slightly negative. That's a very narrow margin, though. I think you have to kind of think, I'm taking a 45-55. And whenever I'm looking at a matchup like that, I always have to err on the side of optimism. It's like, but it's a 55% chance that it's a 45% chance that I win or that I don't lose kind of thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to this matchup, I think that this is a narrow enough margin for you to be acceptable, like for this trade to be acceptable, for this entire board to be available for you. But this is a great example, like we mentioned, or like you even pointed out, of how this deck might benefit from a might. I didn't mean for that to line up the way that it did, but it is. There are situations like this where you do have these 45-55s. You're like, man, I really wish I had this kind of pressure that I could tack on top of things. Barbarian Assessor is dropped with their
coming out
on board, so at least it won't be dead.
We're gonna get devoured.
Delicious.
Let me tell you something. When I first started playing Runeterra and I first came across Deep, I was just seeing, I was seeing them toss their cards. I was like, what is going on here? Why are these cards being tossed? And then out of nowhere, it happened. They hit the treasure that gives you 3 sea monsters, and out of nowhere, I'm staring down like 8/8s with Fearsome. I'm just like, who authorized this? This is terrifying.
Yep. I think the first time that I really started playing Runeterra, Fiora was extremely meta at the time. And I was like, how do I kill this unit? If she kills 4 units of mine, I lose. No,
it's oh my gosh, that was such. I mean, remember when they had to nerf her, and then they had to nerf Drgn, 2 of the most iconic Runeterra champions. They were just being thrown into everything because they were so good. They had such a good stat line, right? And with the different kinds of win cons that we have in the game now, you know, if Fiora, mind you, Fiora used to be a Lurk player. Oh, listen, Palita, you my favorite player right now. You playing Deep and Lurk? Listen, now, prior to getting into Lurk, because I do want to talk about this hand specifically. Never mind. I completely forgot because I got distracted by Lurk.
Oh man, that ADHD hits different, huh? No,
listen, let me tell you something. All right. So let's talk about Lurk real quick. As a Lurk player, there are certain things that you don't necessarily want to see in your hand, and that is your champions, believe it or not. Your champions, when you Lurk and they're on the top of your deck, they give you special benefits, right? You can get an extra proc of Lurk if Rek'Sai is on top, and if Pike is on top, you get a strike spell. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to be able to predict. I believe here we did predict for the Pike, so we're going to go ahead and start setting up for that strike spell, which can move past the flash freezes they may have. Now, in terms of this matchup, right? Lurk doesn't really get to burst lethal you, right? Rek'Sai unfortunately has to be played on the turn that Rek'Sai is going to attack. Otherwise, if you play it on your defense turn, it's going to go right back into the deck and you have to draw into Rek'Sai again.
Not a fate that you exactly want because of the high cost of predict cards in this deck. It seems strange to say because you are playing Forsaken Bakai and you are playing Xerasai Caller, The Forsaken Pakai is not a lurk card. If you don't find Forsaken Pakai earlier, there's always a chance that you hit that card when you want to hit lurk. And with Xerathite Collar, it's a 3-mana unit that predicts with nothing much else attached to it. You want to be playing your Snapjaw Swarms. You'd rather be playing your Xerathite Hatchlings. You'd rather be playing these other cards that have more impact instead of basically passing a turn for 3 mana. Because ultimately, what lurk does is similar to what other Bandle Swarm decks do. They like to fill up the board with a lot of units, swing with a bunch of stats, and then clock you over the head with them eventually. And that is kind of what's happening now. Pike is going through right now. This cannot be Frostbitten. And I can't really see what LeBlanc has in hand because of the... Oh, there we go. Now I can see it. I was thinking that there might have been, I don't know, a double... Elixir of Iron could have possibly saved.
Or even Here to Help. Here to Help is
even Here to Help. I keep forgetting about that card.
Listen, it's the low key short chant. So what Here to Help does, it gives you, I believe, naturally just +2. But if your unit's damaged, it gives you +2/+3. So I mean, I guess 0 +2, so 2 HP I should say, and then +2 damage +3 HP if it's a damaged unit.
Well, it actually gives +3 HP. Oh wow.
It's
you know, that's it's not as strong as removing an attack from a unit, like Troll Chant was able to in every Freljord deck.
Ooh, bloody business coming down on the bike.
Bloody business.
And I think that's another thing that with lurk
is high value.
Very high value. Something to note, right? In Sagnior's deck with Ash LeBlanc, you have a lot of interaction, whether it be Frostbite, Strike, or even buffing your own units. In Lurk, you don't necessarily have that. Your interaction really is maybe the vulnerable spell is definitely the Pike spell. You do have the units, the Lurk units that are able to give vulnerable to another enemy unit, but outside of that, you don't really have anything else. You really have to make sure that if you're going to be using the Pike spell, that you're using it at an optimal moment, because you never know if you're ever going to get another one. At that rate, you're going to have to make sure that you're continuously predicting.
Victory requires a sharp
We see both players going ahead to playing out their units. We have both units matching. We managed to get, I believe, I want to say 4 lurk. Currently at 4 lurk right now.
Yeah, 4 lurk overall. Huh. 4 lurk. How do you handle this attack? Sagnior might want to attack with Ash, but they will be losing it if they do.
Ooh, okay, going for the Frostbite. Okay, I like it. It's a safe play. You don't necessarily have to get rid of one of the bigger units. You do have blockers since they only have 3 HP. You can simply maybe try to keep utilizing that Ash that you have on board to control it. We did predict into a rally. I can see Rek'Sai into rally being very spicy. Rek'Sai into rally actually levels. What, that's 1, 2, and then 3. Yeah, that would be level up. Oh,
imagine they hit another Rek'Sai off the top.
Oh, if they hit another Rek'Sai off the top, that's devastating. That actually. Oh, here we go. Gonna go ahead.
Not rallying this turn. You're just gonna go straight up to the Ash. Level up on the Rek'Sai.
I like it. There we go. Double lurk.
Why would they ever whiff?
Let me tell you something.
Professional lurk players.
The professional lurk players never whiff. Lurk, I feel like, is a feast or famine kind of deck, because when you whiff, oh my gosh, do you whiff? I remember playing a game that I missed lurk like 3 times back to back. I'm just like, you know what, opponent, you got this. There ain't nothing I can do about that. Alright, clean Frostbite, like only going down by 2.
The problem that was a top deck flash freeze.
Ooh.
off of Sagnior's deck. So very, very clutch option for them. But now that Rex has leveled up on board, she gets to stay here. And this will lead into a much more dangerous blood in the water the following turn. Question is, who's gonna win the rally war here? I think right now, as it stands,
Oh, a
it
top
could
deck harsh
very well be.
winds.
What on earth? No, wait, isn't that? No, it's not lethal, but it is damn strong.
Oh my gosh.
Because Ash Frostbite's Rek'Sai, if
Mm-hmm.
you harsh winds both the Xerxai Caller and the Sharkling, no, even if you have the rally now, it means that Sagnior can swing back again the next turn with Incisive Tactician to keep putting this pressure on and making it so that it's impossible for Palita to block.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect the Archwinds to come out here. You want to keep the Ash alive, right?
I'm definitely expecting it. I'd be surprised if the harsh winds doesn't come out. Because what you harsh winds now, that prevents the rally. Not that you know that the rally's there, but you know it prevents the possibility of a rally. Your opponent's gonna have to develop. Next turn, go into your own rally. And what, they're only gonna have 2 units that are a little bit on the dangerous side. Maybe 3 if we do, because I'm sure we'll decide to open here. We might open with one of the overwhelm units. Personally, I do like the 5-cost unit if you're able to get that up to a certain amount of power, which is 8 power, which it does have. You will get Fearsome, Spell Shield, and Overwhelm.
Oh, we were back for a second there. One thing that I'm not a fan of in regards to that turn specifically was that we used the harsh winds during their attack. I think it might have been better to use the harsh winds to then prevent the blocks on the 2 other units so that we could trade into the 2-1 and then have better blocks with Ash the following turn in case we had I don't know, Here to Help or a second harsh winds top deck, or even a Brittle Steel, any of those other interaction options we had talked about earlier. Oh yeah, Bloody Business as well could have saved us there. But instead, losing out to a wider board, Lurk doing exactly what Lurk does best, and beating you in with stats. That's just how it goes. That's just how it likes to operate quite often.
It was a bit of a stat war between those decks, right? Because although Lurk can only really increase their power, not necessarily their health, you're able to increase it fast enough where you can match the stat increase of an Ash LeBlanc deck, right? Because they have usually one of a Revna. Maybe some decks might run 2, but you primarily see 1. And then you also have, the Avarosan Sentry. Sentry? No. Lookout. Why am I thinking of the card, the draw card now? I need to. I'm pretty sure it's Sentry.
You're thinking of the Trifarian Assessor.
Yeah. Okay.
It is.
Avarosan Hearthguard. The one that gives 1/1.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
that one.
The 5/6. Yep.
Yeah. For some reason, I couldn't. I already missed Sentry. You can tell me being a whole Anivia player, not being able to play my deck in standard format. I'm only thinking about the cards that are associated with that deck.
Just like
I miss you, Anivia.
The Wolverine meme of him like the photo while he's in bed, just like my beloved.
my
next
beloved.
match that we're going into next match that we're going into will be Shaddoll against Croc AI. Croc AI, a long-standing member as well of the Mystic Shot podcast tournament. So exciting to see him here around as well. And if we jump into specifically what Croc AI is bringing, Croc AI is once again bringing deep. Here it is, another deep enjoyer. And the funny thing is that deep is brought 6 times in this tournament. That is actually the tied for 5th highest overall, or tied for 5th place with Gwen Quinn, and being one of those few representatives of Shadow Isles across the board overall. But yeah, bringing deep, bringing as well Karma Set, which is a pretty typical one that we've been seeing around quite a bit as well. And then finally rounding things out on Aatrox Quinn Vayne.
Okay,
so
I like the Aatrox Quinn Vayne.
I'm a fan of it too, not in terms of play style, but I'm a fan of it being brought in this lineup specifically because if you look at the ways that each of these decks play, is that it likes to kind of stall out for these big late game hitters. Nautilus and Deep, we've seen that, and we know that this deck has been around for a while. We know exactly what it likes to do, and that is specifically to then toss a bunch of cards to get deep to then swing for big late game monsters and all of that. Aatrox Quinn Vayne wants to set up for that World Ender. Karma set likes to set up for the Karma. So almost like a delay kind of game plan for both things. And here we see the Quinn Vayne up against the Karma set. Now, what do you make of that specifically? This is a very interesting one overall.
It is. It definitely is. I want to say that Croc AI, the Vayne Aatrox deck, can beat the Ionia Karma, the Karma set deck, and the reason being is if you're able to get your scouts online or even Vayne leveled in online, you're gonna have to deal with that constant pressure. And mind you, if you're not able to get to round 10 where you're able to use your coins effectively, or if your opponent is just putting so much pressure with your scout attacks, you have to spend nearly every resource you have just to stay alive. And you have 2 units in the deck that are really helpful. A, this one drop right here, the 4/2 with tough. Because that tough keyword, let me tell you, against these Piltover decks that run a lot of pings, like whether it be Caustic or Mystic Shot, you suddenly can't kill this 4/2 unit. What do you do, right? And if you're able to get the Ranger Knight out and about, if you're able to get Ranger Knight plus the Harp, oh my gosh, that's 6 damage to face. You either A, hey, I need to sacrifice a unit here, or B, you're going to be taking possibly 12 damage in a single round.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Concussive Palm was burned here, but we see the tumble in hand for Croc. Now we do have a chump blocker for this tumble specifically, but going down to 2 HP is not at all where you want to be. So first we go for the Cataclysm.
Okay.
Oh, so painful, man. So painful for Karma Set. And you are correct in your assessment as well. Karma Set does not like these go wide strategies because while they're good at dealing with one specific unit at a time, they're not good at dealing with multiple, especially when they're as large as the ones that you find here in Quinn, Vayne, and Aatrox. Shaddoll going to be using the tag out to save the Vayne, and we're actually throwing the Steadfast Elkin at their face, saying like, all right, yeah, you might have recalled there, but block this. Oh, and block this as well. Just throwing so many stats of Karma.
So much pressure. Like, what do you do? And I think it is smart, at least going. I'm wondering for this open in particular, what players are going to decide to bring. Right, we have the open this weekend where everyone has been prepping for it, whether you're doing the gauntlet or just simply climbing on ladder to get that practice in. If we're going to see players, I feel like the 2 decks that we're going to be worried about, right, is Fizz Samira, Karma Set. Which one do you choose to target, and which one do you choose to ban? And it's something that we do have to take in consideration. It seems like most players, I want to say, are opting to go against Karma Set, for the simple fact that if you do have these big units, like whether it be Ash LeBlanc or, you know, one of the Aatrox variants, or even the Demacia variants that have feature scout, what can they do with all your pressure? As long as they're able to just keep putting that pressure, they're good to go against that kind of deck. Whereas Samira Fizz, you know, they could be in an unfavorable matchup, but if they suddenly get Shelly on the board and just any other elusive, they're able to get that combo going, they're just kind of killing you. And you don't have anything, you can't do anything about it if you don't have any interaction.
Something that I find particularly interesting about the matchups of both of those decks as well is that apparently Set Karma and Fizz Samira both consistently lose to this Vayne Aatrox deck, and they consistently lose to Leona Samira with Noxus. Well, no, that's redundant. But they consistently lose to Leona Samira. So once you find out what your third deck is going to be, in terms of trying to just counter out the meta, counter out the top decks specifically, which, funny enough, Deep does have a decent win rate against Karma Set, which seems a little bit ironic because of how Karma can just keep copying champion spells late game. Deep is probably being brought here as one of those possible counters, as one of those decks that can potentially contend with it and go faster than what Set Karma likes to do. Because Set Karma, you know what they like to do? They like to wait. They like to take their time and be like, oh yeah, we're in the late game now. We're stalling out for this specifically. And with the short timer that Deep puts itself on, that is something that you can bring to try and counter it out. So that's why I feel like we're seeing a lot of the Vaytrox. Vaytrox, yeah, that's great. Vaytrox.
True. something that I want to point out as we're seeing on the screen right now, Croc AI is going to go ahead and use Tumble on the 10-10 Aatrox with Overwhelm, right? Now, mind you, Aatrox is stunned, but despite Ionia having access to stuns, Tumble and Cataclysm are able to move past that debuff, right? Because it forces the unit to be challenged. So unless you have another stun available to you, you're gonna end up dying to those tumbles and those cataclysms. We've seen how powerful Cataclysm is, whether it be the Vayne Aatrox deck that we just saw now, or even the Alawi Jarvan decks that we're seeing kind of roam around. They put that Cataclysm on one of the bigger units, or even Alawi with a tentacle on board. They are smacking you in the face with everything. Out of nowhere, you're just gonna get hit with like a 10 damage Alawi. First off, why is she so big? Not always complaining. Let her be big a little bit. But anyway, I digress. But like, come on, it's so powerful. And here we already get to see Croc AI on Deep versus Karma Said. What are your thoughts on this, Kai? Because to my knowledge, I feel like this matchup might be leaning towards Deep, but possibly 50-50. But I think it's very dependent if Shaddoll is going to be able to dodge the Maokai level up.
If Shadow dodges the Maokai level up, really the main thing that you want out of that deck specifically is 1, protection spells for Karma, and 2 copies of Karma. Because if you have 2 copies of Karma late game after this deck goes deep, you can keep indefinitely shuffling Karmas and creating spells with her signature champion spell, which is it's called, I believe, Insight of the Ages. It's a 2-mana spell that creates 2 spells in hand, and then it gets duplicated by Karma. So then you're creating 4 spells in hand from your regions, and that can be pretty much anything. You're given such a wide array of options that can remove a lot of the units that Croc AI will be able to put on board here. Attentive Accountant is creating the first coin, and it will not be the last time that we see that coin get created either, leading into these very scary late games.
Most definitely.
The other thing about Deep is that I classically used to counter Deep using TF Nami. I know that's probably a statement that would get me punched in the mouth, but because I know people hate TF Nami, but I'm a big fan of like 2 of my highest mastery champions of the champion. I just like the spell combo lists. But TF Nami, the reason why it was so consistent at beating Deep back in the day was because wide board with elusives that Deep generally had a pretty tough time blocking, aside from the Abyssal Eye. But then on top of that, when you have things like the Wiggly Burblefish getting on board, it's a 0-mana unit 9 times out of 10 by the time it hits the board. And then you're using Vengeance on it because it's hitting you for 12, and that feels terrible. You don't want to use Vengeance to try and kill a 0-mana unit, but that is what is necessitated. And so sometimes that is the bane of Deep's existence, but a line 'em up tech inside of Croc AI's deck makes sure that neither of those elusives live.
I like the line it up tech. I saw it. I forget. It was actually. I'm not sure if you're aware of the player. Max got the tracks. They used they used that on me in a game. I was playing Ashley Blanc. They were playing Deep, and they had used line it up on me to pull out a sapling, and to also kill one of my units. And I'm just sitting there dumbfounded because, mind you, right before it happened, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, they don't have Vow Feast. I don't have to worry about, a sapling coming out. And out of nowhere, it happens at burst speed. And I'm just like, hey, yo, first off, what? Get out of here.
Rude. I can't tell you as well how many times when I was playing Jack Udyr that I won matches against Shadow Isles because they don't have access to Vile Feast anymore. I'd be like, damn,
it was powerful.
My unit really do be on 1 HP.
Right? My unit is on 1 HP, and I have no fears. Nothing. But I think lighting up is something that we might maybe see more often in some Deep decks, right? Given that it can burst speed, provide you with a ping, a 2 damage ping, kind of like a Mystic Shot. And also can get you that sapling if you do have Maokai on board. I like it. I think it's a really interesting tech. Oh, we see the stun come out, starting to develop some coins. We'll go ahead and threw in the set. Now, it's not Shadowdoll's attack token. So when Set goes to block, it is going to take a lot of damage. Mind you, Kai, something that I felt like was a weird interaction. Apparently, when Set is on 1 HP, like let's say like you know they were already on 1 HP already. If you go for that swing already on 1 HP, you still get the barrier. And I was just like, oh, I thought you had to like go from 100 to like 1 or like somewhere above 1 to and then go down to get that barrier. It was a weird interaction. I was just like question mark. I
think that just comes down to Riot wording. There are some things that feel a little bit inconsistent in those regards, but I do feel like that is how the card reads. Is like if there was something that would bring me below 1 HP for the first time while I'm attacking, then create barrier. You would think that, oh, I'm already at 1 HP. Yeah, it's a little bit strange.
Yeah.
Devourer of the Depths is trying to remove the Set here, but we don't know exactly what Set has in hand. Though, given our knowledge of the deck so far, it's possible that there's protection here.
Oh,
no, there's not.
Nothing. Wow.
Wow.
We actually had a few oh, okay, opting to play the Karma. Getting the Karma a turn ahead of time, right? We're not necessarily at 10, we're just 1 turn away. But if we don't have anything, we might be able to see the Karma level up. Mind you, Croc AI does have 2 more Devourer of the Depths. We are not yet deep, so we cannot use them on the Karma, but we have an even spicier card. That is Terror of the Tides. You managed to get that off of one of the Jaw Hunters, and what it does, it subtracts the power of the enemy by 2, and it makes all other sea monsters fearsome. So it's going to be a really powerful swing in if we're able to get it off. Shaddoll already showing their hand, thinking, oh, I'm going to go ahead and stun it. Now we don't have to worry about the fearsomes. Yep, they may be fearsome, but we do have a fearsome blocker. Not going to take too much damage.
The preemptive stun is great there. It saves you a ton of HP, and the ghost.
Wow.
That was created by Karma.
That was created by Karma.
Cool. We've seen some very, I mean, we have already saw the Elixir of Wrath from earlier. And then the ghost on that turn specifically, saving a ton of strife, reducing Croc AI's draw as well, because that is what the Abyssal Eye does. When it nexus strike, it draws you a card. Now granted, we are already deep, but that prevented so much damage from going through, because that draw was what made Croc AI go deep. If Croc AI went deep by hitting with the Abyssal Eye there, that would have been a ton of more damage. And if Shaddoll didn't preemptively stun the Terror of the Tides, it could have very well been lethal anyway.
Yeah,
because
very well.
even if you're not blocking the Dredgers, the extra stats that you get off of deep, that would have been created by the. There's a whole like laundry list of interactions that go on. Basically, Croc AI had lethal if Shaddoll didn't have the exact answers that they did at that time. So we've sold out now. We are refilling 14 mana for
14 mana. Look at that turn reset.
Return.
This is the power of Karma coins. Now, I found it really interesting that Shaddoll decided to go... Oh, wow, Hextech Obliterator? Okay, the Tough does save the Nautilus. Look at that keyword. If we didn't have Tough, we would have been on 1 HP. Now the 7/7 is coming out, gonna try to devour that Karma. Do we get to live? Can we tag out?
It ain't happening.
Can we recall? we have answers in this deck. It is possible.
Fast speed.
Oh, okay.
Place your bets.
We might not have it.
And I believe that we do. We have such a good look at things. Aftershock is burned. Coins just, hey, look, we refilled 14 mana and now we're refilling 8 more.
Look at this. Double Mystic. Wow. Okay, saves the Karma. Can we match that?
Wow.
No, because that's Mystic Shots. That's 4 damage. Is it just barely?
It has to be less.
Yeah.
It's not equal. It has to be less.
Has to be less. This is spooky. This is spooky. I don't know. Okay, here comes that.
This is where that 55-45 comes in. Set Karma is slightly losing to deep overall, yes. But when it gets to this point of the game, it's not nearly as much the case. Second Devour, another Devour of the Depths. The third one. Second one this round.
Will be tagging out.
Blade.
Wow, Caustic Rift. Does that
Ooh.
save? It barely saves. And now we can use our Drain spell now that the Shaddoll has tapped below all of the mana that they could have possibly used this turn. So Karma is gone. We are going to probably get the Nautilus. I'm wondering, do you obliterate the Nautilus? Probably not. You probably go for a swing. Go ahead and use Set. Set cannot die upon swing, so you kill that. Then you go for the Obliterate on Terror of the Tides. And then you're able to block everything. Or at least you can block 2. Still going down pretty... Oh no, yeah, we block everything. Because we, the Showstopper obliterates an enemy and all deals 1 to everything. Wow, what a line of play. And you saw Croc AI was being very patient with the Drain, making sure to always keep it in mind, noticing that, hey, you know, I wasn't able to get it the first time, but given that I have multiple Devours, maybe I'll get it the second time. And although we did manage to get it the second time, now we're kind of in a really tricky pickle, right? Shaddoll managed to refill basically their whole hand the previous turn with Karma being leveled, and Croc AI is now down to 1 card.
Exbliterator makes sure that this set stays alive as well, but we're preventing 7 damage with the only other coin generator that we had on board. Augmented Clockling is looking for more answers too. The Shaddoll is currently, as far as I can tell, 1 Maokai away.
Ooh, second Nautilus.
From being obliterated here.
Ooh. Oh, there goes the Karma.
There's the Karma. Most likely predicted. Nope, not predicted. Off of the Augmented Clock.
Ooh, Encore.
Lost 4 mana. Encore is a gross card. Called Shot is also gross. Just...
If we're able to get Parallel Convergence off of either of these draws, we can go ahead and activate it, which is going to let us swing in with Set. And even though Set is ephemeral, when Set is swinging, Set cannot die. So now you get to do a double Set.
You just drop the bomb as well in case you didn't have enough of your board removed. It's just, there's so much going on here. We've tossed enough for Maokai to level up. We've had enough units die as well. Now it's a matter of finding the card. That is the more difficult thing going on here. Also, Shaddoll gets to take a new turn.
4
Back
mana.
up to 4 mana.
Half a turn. Okay, going for some predicts. Now, something that I've been hearing from some players, right, is that the Karma set deck has a bit of trouble closing out games, given they don't have, like, really a true finisher. You're kind of just grinding out your opponent with Karma and with the set obliterates, but if you don't have set and you only have Karma, you kind of have to deal with what you got. Now, mind you, Karma can create a lot of really nice spells, right? You can create Catastrophe, and if you're able to get Catastrophe on board, that's already GG.
No holds barred. I saw you looking at me.
Going for the swing. We got some elusives down board. We have Karma swinging in. I mean, even with Maokai, if Shaddoll doesn't have a second set or a second Karma, Jettison, not really want to see, then they are going to be able to survive the Maokai level. Mind you, Croc AI has not drawn into it just yet. Double stun. Okay, okay. Lose both the units, but we stop the swing.
I mean, yeah, there is.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. The Parallel Convergence.
Wow.
It is GG right there.
Wow. I think that was also found off of, if I'm not mistaken, because that cost was reduced, it was found off of the Clockling. Specifically, the 2 copies that you had created in the deck of maybe 20 cards left to go through. So really, really lucky find to get the Parallel Convergence. And yeah, Set Karma does have troubles closing out matches, which is why Deep can beat it. But in those specific instances where you get exactly the cards that you need to swing back sometimes, that is where the power of Set really shines through. We saw Set attack, which I very rarely ever see in Set Karma, but it shone through so well there to remove a lot of the use the Croc AI had, then tie this all up to a 1-to-1, and it will be Deep up against whatever Shaddoll has as their next deck, which is either Jack Seraphine or Leona Samira.
Oh, that was the third game.
Oh, that was the third game.
Okay.
All right.
So we gotta see what the score was reported. So that was game 3 via Croc and Shaddoll. We're gonna see what that score was.
So
but
that means that Shaddoll takes it away into the next round.
okay.
I see
Look at
you.
these deck lineups.
Sam Sands is playing against Vrado. This means that we are in the semifinals.
We here
right now.
already.
Yeah,
Okay, semifinals.
already here.
All
So
right.
Shadow Dragon will be played against K, otherwise known as Palita. Or we'll be seeing Sam Sands against TOF Vrado, 4 players that have all done very well on this evening to get as far as they have. And you know what's great about Vrado? Is that Vrado is also bringing Pike Rek'Sai. Another lurk enjoyer. The second
these
lurk
are the
enjoyer
lurk players, the deep players. They're getting in there. Okay.
They really are. You know, funny enough, Palita actually does have deep and Pike Rek'Sai in their lineup. And I'm looking at Vrado's lineup as well. They have Pike Rek'Sai, they have Leona Samira, they have Gwen Quinn. What do these 3 decks have in common?
They want to beat you.
I see a very clear strategy here.
They will beat you down.
Like,
whether
exactly what they plan to do.
Mind you, what deck is the slowest out of all of these? I want to say Pike Rek'Sai only because like it can sometimes break and you're not necessarily getting your lurks off. And I want to say maybe the fastest, maybe more consistent is Leona Samira. But mind you, we haven't seen Gwen Quinn in the tournament just yet. This would be one of the first players that we have there is playing it. And when that deck pops off, right? If you're able to get 4-year on board, if you're able to get your Gwen or even Valor paired with Hallowed is basically, hey, I'm summoning this 2-mana unit and I'm killing whatever I want. Deal with it. Figure out a way. And if you're running a region that doesn't necessarily have any pings or frostbites, you kind of suffer with the little bird pecking at everything.
Yep, that you do. You just these decks are like decks that I feel are even more so stat stick checks. These are decks that you specifically want to try and just throw out to try and overwhelm your opponents. You have Pike Rek'Sai being the lurk deck, but Gwen Quinn, yeah, when you have that the Opulent Foyer pop off, when you have all the Hallowed cards going, when you have the scout attacks, when everything kind of falls into place, which isn't very difficult to do with this deck because it's what it's designed to do, you can just kind of walk over matches. I have been walked over by Gwen Quinn multiple times, much to my annoyance, because I am not a fan of Demacia decks, but that is also my personal bias coming out in that regard. It's just because of like how consistent it is. It is annoyingly very consistent deck overall, and so that's just speaking more to the power of it. And then it does a similar thing to what Leona Samira does. While it doesn't exactly have the same kind of punching power that the Hallowed does on one specific unit, Leona Samira we saw earlier has all of those burn options, has all of that ability to go really wide quite frequently, and therefore we do end up seeing it brought alongside some of these similar strategies like Gwen Quinn that can punch you in the face for damage and not apologize for it later
at all. And I think something else to note about the Gwen Quinn deck, right? It is featuring Demacia, so it does run Cataclysm. And Cataclysm is a really great card. Let's say you don't necessarily have Valor, but you want to get that extra swing in. Or let's say you've already gotten your swing in, your Gwen is already at 10 damage and level. You're sitting there, you know what? Let's do it again. And now, even though they may not have Overwhelm, when Gwen is leveled and has plenty of power, that Nexus is getting snipped. Snip. Dealing 2 damage and the 1 drain for every 2 damage that Gwen has. And that can really start stacking up, especially if your opponent's attacking quite often in a turn.
That it can. I'm trying to look at other matchups here as well, because it looks like we're not able to spectate Vrado against Sam Sands because Vrado has their spectate turned off. You joined a tournament. Why do you have your spectate turned off? Why do you do this? Why do you do this? It doesn't matter. It's fine. So we'll watch the other match. We're going to be watching Palita and Shaddoll on this next match whenever we can get into it. And Shaddoll, we did see earlier, is bringing Jack Seraphine Leonismere Karma set. We only saw the one match of the Karma set specifically, but I am curious if Jack Seraphine gets through the ban phase, especially considering what Palita is bringing to the table here, which if I find them here, they're also deep, Ash LeBlanc and Pike Rek'Sai. I would say that Jack Seraphine does get banned more often than anything, because one, you don't want to get OTK'd by the kegs.
That
But two,
OTK is vicious.
one thing that Lurk really struggles against, and this is something that I found from the couple of times that I've played Lurk this season, is that it really struggles into Piltover and Zaun strategies. You don't like having these ward wipes. You don't like those kegs getting those caustic rifts to remove everything on your board. And could be what we end up seeing in the ban phase here.
Yeah, I can see it, because again, although Karma set does have access to the same tools that the Seraphine Jack deck has, it's really BB, Mischievous Mirai, that makes the difference. When you are able to essentially get burst speed kegs, they're going to increase all of your spells by whatever amount of spells that you play. It's insane. Like, I'm sure anyone who's watching the stream now or is playing the tournament has seen, you know, some of these other streamers or even other players who are playing that deck OTK from 14, 15 with just the keg, and it's just like, what do you do? Especially if it's the warning shot OTK, because mind you, some may do mystic shot or anything, but the Jack Seraphine decks always want to go for the warning shot because you can't stop it. They get their combo online with Seraphine and BB, it's a wrap, and it can be devastating for any deck. I've seen that deck's definitely like tore me up. And like I was like, I'm there. I'm like, oh, I got it now. You know, I have my wide board. You know, I'm hitting them. They don't really have anything. Then out of nowhere, boom, caustic rift, doing 3 or 4 damage. I'm just like, I guess I'll die.
Guess I'll just turn over and die.
What could I do?
Yeah,
but I feel like it's a tough call.
It is a tough call. I think I'd ban Jack Seraphine.
I think so too.
But and then try to take the mirror matchup in Ash LeBlanc. That's kind of tough. Yeah, how do you take the mirror matchup of Ash LeBlanc? Because I believe that both of these players are probably bringing the exact same set of decks. Because there is a specific meta way to play everything. Well, I was right on the Lurk not being banned.
All right.
So that is one thing. But I was wrong. On the other hand, it is Jack Seraphine.
Okay. I can see I guess the argument for letting Jack Seraphine through, right, is they do need to get their combo pieces, whereas the Karma set deck, once they reach 10, it's almost kind of an auto victory. Mind you, you still can, you know, get through, like, tough it out. But at least with Jack Seraphine, if you get rid of the Seraphine, if you get rid of the BB, the Mischievous Mirai, then you know what, you're A-okay, right? Because there isn't really any other units that are going to really threaten you like that, right? Sure, we have this 4-1, we have Jack who's a 4-5, but with Lurk, we're going to be able to block into all of that as long as we have our Theer Lurk cards.
And here we go. Piltover and Zaun being once again Lurk's biggest bane, at least in recent memory.
This.
So, Shaddoll miscounted there. I don't know if you saw what happened.
Was it the order or was it the miscount? Oh, okay, so it was
their ordering was wrong.
Okay. It's kind of like the disintegrate
You
thing.
wanted to play the prize fight first.
Play the prize fight first. But that I like prize fight. I'm surprised that we're not really seeing it maybe more often. I feel like there are some decks that possibly could take it really like advantage of that. What did I see? I saw a Garen variant that had that card. And I was just like, okay, so you can possibly level Garen in 1 turn, because you know Garen has regeneration. He's gonna heal up anyway after any strikes.
That he is. Is that a misclick by Palita as well?
I'm not sure. I don't believe
that was a misclick, because Palita has 3 Rex, or had 3 Rek'Sais in hand. So you use the first Rek'Sai, which gives you the Lurk card, to then lurk with the other Rek'Sai on top of your deck, and then get Rek'Sai to 10 power with Overwhelm, and it's unstoppable. But instead they chose to lurk the Xerxereth for it, and then Rek'Sai goes back into the deck again.
I mean, we do
I
have
don't know if
another
that's how that
Rek'Sai in
works,
hand.
though.
Yeah,
we had all
I
three.
can see, yeah, we had all three. I think it's helpful to have them go back in the deck. Like, I know, at least me personally, if I'm playing Lurk and I have too many champions, I'm like gonna put them on board, especially if it's Rek'Sai, because sometimes you getting that extra proc, even though Rek'Sai might not be level, getting that extra proc of Lurk early can be really helpful. And in this case, I can see the argument being for that you want to get it so that you can get this Lurker to become an 8/6, that way it gets Spell Shield. There's some arguments to be made, and even then, you know, with having other Rek'Sais, we're good to go. And this is where it's going to become troublesome for Shaddoll, right? We're already on 3 HP. Matter of fact, what? This is a 5 HP unit. What do we have? Only Caustic Rift, Warning Shot. I don't think we have an answer for this. I think this open swing might just do it. And if Palita wants to play it safe, we can even play the second one.
You have to find specifically Steel Tempest or something along those lines from Sputtering Song.
Is Steel Tempest still in the game? I actually don't know.
Oh yeah.
Was it rotated?
I don't know if I've had I mean, I was playing a test game earlier of Jack Seraphine, and I was playing Pharaoh's Financier, and I generated Decimate, so I think it's still possible to find it. Because Decimate was rotated out as well.
We'll have to see. I wonder if the AI games. I wonder if the AI games are in internal mode. I wouldn't be surprised. Interesting.
Yeah,
oh, because we're gonna go for Miss Rek'Sai here. Decided to swing a little bit on the wider side, even though Mischievous Mirai is on board. I have too many spells. What? That's gonna be 2 kegs, 3 kegs. But we can't Warning Shot to get extra keg, unfortunately.
Right. I mean, Caustic Rift is kind of nice.
Yeah, removes 1 unit.
You don't really have too much more going for you, because Rek'Sai swings for the level up anyway. You found a pipe, 2, just in case Palita's board wasn't enough to win it. It's winning even more. We get to see Rek'Sai level up, so that's kind of cool. So you won't see very often.
That's a pretty nice level up, I'm not gonna lie. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
Imagine being a streamer. Sometimes it bricks, sometimes it's just exactly what you need. I think what makes the triple Rek'Sai hand maybe better than, let's say, a triple Pike hand is that Rek'Sai's champ spell is Call the Pack. So it's really easy to go ahead and put Rek'Sai back in the deck, or, you know, put any unit that you have in your hand back in the deck once you already played one. So I think it's a lot easier to maybe recover, especially if you're swinging with the Rek'Sai, so you can get those extra lurk procs. Whereas compared to Pike, you know, Pike is already like a 1/3. You need to lurk if you want Pike to be useful in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Now I want to go out on a limb and say that the deck ban was the Karma set. Yep, it was. Here we go. We're about to see running it back with Jack Seraphine, and then we're gonna go ahead and go into Ash LeBlanc. I feel like
matchup.
It is. I'm about to go look up the stats real quick. I'm curious. This
oh wow, Seraphine Jack actually wins the 60-40.
Really? 60-40?
Yeah.
Wow. I think I guess the argument...
That is still a 40% chance.
Yeah, it's still a 40% chance. I guess the argument is that once you get kegs on board, if they don't have a real way of dealing with it, which I want to say you either would have to challenge it, which isn't really reliable, given that they have fast speed and burst speed spells, you would have to strike it. That would basically be the only way. You need to make sure you get a strike or LeBlanc spell. LeBlanc spell would be a good option.
I really like this Elixir of Iron in Palita's hand. Protects the LeBlanc from removal right now. Makes things a little bit less awkward to handle. However, there is this... No, Subfume still does 3 damage anyway. It's just the cost that gets reduced if anything is played here. You could play the Encore to try and find something to prevent this swing from Palita. We're off to a very good start for Palita. Problem is, like you mentioned, once we get the kegs and the Caustic Rifts rolling, how much more are you able to prevent here? My answer is not too much, to put it shortly. I'm
gonna go ahead and use the Seraphine's High Note. That is gonna be kind of about that Elixir of Iron we had just saw. Now, anytime you're playing against, you know, Ash LeBlanc, you do need to keep in mind how much mana they're left off. And I think that's the thing about the deck. They can save 1 spell mana. And you really have to think about like what brittle steel and elixir of iron, because even that 2 HP or even you having a unit on 3 HP that can get frostbitten can really change the course of the game, especially in terms of tempo. And that's what this deck is all about. If you're able to get your challengers on board along with Ash, or if you have any of your other frostbites, you're simply just removing their units without losing any of your own. Interesting hand on Shaddoll. We have double BB, double Mischievous Mirai, and Bar. And it seems like, Kai, we can't escape Lurk because the card that was created by Seraphine is called a pack. So Palita's about to get some bad, just be like, you know what, you BB with Lurk, I'm gonna send some Lurkers your way now.
Lurk this. You can shuffle a card back if you want.
Yeah, you could shuffle it back. I feel like anytime I'm looking at a Seraphine like just by herself on the board and I have all these 5/5s, I feel like I should feel more safe. For some reason, I'm looking at Seraphine, I'm just like, no, this pop star apparently can take on the entire Noxus and Failure army. And I have to be afraid of it.
Wow, we hit Hexobliterator, Sputter, Song Spinner, and Formula.
Those
that
are all
is
wonderful
one of
picks.
the best.
You're mine.
Holy smokes.
That was so good.
Yeah, you may have Elixir of Iron, but can you block the Hexobliterator? If we even use it, actually.
Ooh, we're gonna go ahead and sacrifice
We're not even
it.
gonna ask.
Okay.
It's time.
I like it. Rather than protect the Seraphine, you can go ahead and opt to kill the LeBlanc. So now there's only a 1 unit to no units. It's a lot easier to deal with 1 unit than it's deal with 3. We did pick up the Bloody Blizzard in Palita's hand, so that will be the answer to this BB. We have no other answers, so once this unit comes out, we can get Encore is 2 plus another spell. So we would need to get a ping with Encore, I think. If if the strike spell comes out from Palita. Tricky.
Most likely, Will, you don't want this doing any damage whatsoever.
Ooh, it's tough. I think we're thinking about it. We're just sitting here, we're like, what do I play? I can go Ash, LeBlanc, or I can go Strike. And I feel like if anything, you might really have to heavily consider taking out this BB right here and now. Because you already know that a few, some Fumes was already used. So some Fumes would have been 4 damage, given we had given ourselves another card. And with the Keg Summoning. It's tricky. You gotta really play it. Because one decision sometimes is all it takes for the game to just completely turn around.
And what if you're also saving this bloody business for the keg specifically?
To make an appearance.
True.
I mean, it seems like a bit
that
of
could also be an option. I feel like there can be an argument made for it, but the thing is, if your opponent's able to get the warning shot combo, then bloody business becomes useless. So it might be a bit of a throw. Here we go, going for the Encore, gonna go ahead and get a keg.
Do we get Stone Seeds?
We got Swindle.
No, Swindle.
That's guaranteed a strike spell.
Oh my gosh, it is. You're right, because you can't hit Ash, so you get
they went for Brittle Steel. Interesting.
the bloody business. That is some great intel. No, we get Brittle Steel because now when this gets pulled through, you get a Brittle Steel.
My move.
Oh wow.
I like it.
Not even pulling the barrel.
Good call.
Let's go for the damage. Brittle Steel is used. Followed by
10 damage Hexobliterator!
That is a big damage Hexobliterator. I don't like this Hexobliterator being pre-committed though, because now you can just bloody business the BB for free, because now you know that you can use it. Now you know this has no protection left.
But even then, like to go down to 10, because even if you pull and you do the Frostbite and then pass, it makes more sense for Palita just to go ahead and take the 10 free. It's a tough call, because you have to watch your HP against this deck. The units have such high power. Yep, there it goes. Bloody business coming out. We know our opponent's only on 2 mana. If they have the Mystic Shot, if they have the High Note, it would come out now. Does not.
Damage check. I think trying to remove the LeBlanc specifically so that he doesn't get the level up ahead of time, preventing the damage rather than preventing the removal. But knowing that you had the bloody business in hand anyway, I guess the theory, the working theory is that you don't want LeBlanc to level up, so you have to kill her before any of the damage goes through. Because if the pass is made off of the frostbite that we found off of brittle steel, they still push for 10 damage, and then you're at 5. Any unit gets through what you have on board, and you are losing immediately. So I guess I can understand the theory now that I think about it a little bit more. But like in the moment, it just seems so weird to know that you have the bloody business in hand, that your opponent has bloody business in hand, and then to pre-commit your removal to protect your BB to begin with, the card that can immediately end games if given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Okay, is this, let me double check, is this Ash level up? This would be, no, we're 2 away from Ash level up. We only have no frostbites in here. No, we have
Funny
1
enough,
frostbite in hand.
If Iceville Archer frostbit Seraphine and then use brittle steel on,
Wow, it would have been level up.
that would have been level up with the dash swing and would have made it so that these units couldn't block. His second hit Obliterator guarantees that the damage still goes through anyway, and we are hitting for 5 more.
Sing with me.
But with 1 card left in hand, and knowing that Palita is not running Noxian Fervor, not running Might, like those cards we keep trying to harp on, as we're just overwhelmed gamers or something. We love our burn. I
love our burn.
I love burn. I'm actually having a lot of fun with burn lately.
I was becoming a fan of Jin Annie before they had removed Decimate. I mean, even with the removal of Decimate, I think it's still a deck that can do a little something to its opponents.
It is, yeah. I've been playing Annie Caitlyn lately. As been another card
I've seen that deck.
that I've been running.
That seemed like a good one. I want to note something. If we're looking at Palita's hand, that is the brittle steel. So right now, Shaddoll is playing with complete confidence, already knowing what's in the opponent's hand.
That's true. Yeah, the swindle, because they didn't play it earlier.
Stage amp. All right,
Seraphine
let's
level up
go.
as well. This is where the deck matchup for Ash LeBlanc goes from bad to worse, because now this flow will be healing for 4 HP and also dealing damage across the board because of the Seraphine copy. Actually, it'll be doing, excuse me, 5 damage to the face. I'm so sorry. Because of the way that it copies the kegs. So the first copy gets the keg damage, and then the second copy is played by Seraphine again, makes another keg, makes the first copy do more damage, and then you're still guaranteed the extra damage from the spell anyway. So across the board, having Seraphine and BB on board, despite Palita's best efforts to remove it, and despite Palita's best efforts to win the round out for themselves, has not been going their way at all. Call Pack is burned
Look at all the
now to
alerts.
create 2 more kegs. Look at all the alert cards. Oh,
My gosh. What are we at right now?
No,
Oh gosh, what is this at? 10?
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Uh-oh. That's 10 damage.
No, you play the spell and 11, I think. Wait, is this lethal right now?
It is... No. Is it? I can't do math. Hold on.
We're about
Because
to
if this
find
plays,
out.
this one...
I think it is.
This one duplicates, goes up to 8, which does 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 1 is 2 is 12. So you're at 1 HP right now. for Shaddoll.
Wow.
Making that brittle steel that they used on the clock link actually prevent lethal this turn.
That's insane to think about. That's so insane to think about, that if you didn't brittle steel that 2/2, you would have been dead. And we get Trifurian Assessor. We can draw.
We do have a good look at cards. No spells in Shadow's hand, which is a rarity. In fact, we draw back into the Camouflaged Horror because of the way the Call to Pack works. We put it on top of the deck, trying to go for a big swing. It should be pretty successful, actually. All things considered,
I wanna say so as well.
You don't want to be taking too much damage.
We're considering it.
If Palita finds Incisive Tactician
You earn the right
off of
to
this draw
rule
from Trifarian
Trifarian.
Assessor, they win.
Oh, Reckoning!
Okay, Reckoning works too.
Wow.
As well.
We lose 2 of our own units if we Reckoning, but I think it's okay in this sense because we're clearing the whole board of the opponents.
We still have those lurkers in hand, so we're not like out of units necessarily.
Yeah, we're not out. We got to play 1 unit, but our opponent's just so much wider than us. Because what? Put that down.
Here's the other problem too. 2 of the units that we have in Shaddoll's hand are Snapjaw Swarm, which will get immediately eaten by the Avarice and Hearthguard or the Trifarian Assessor. The GG is thrown out for Shaddoll. That Reckoning absolutely
devastating.
Who allowed Noxus to have a Ruination? Whose idea was this?
That's basically what it is. It's basically what it is. It's just Ruination for Noxus if you're able to meet its condition. And mind you, I think something that's a little bit spicy in the mirror matchup is that if your opponent decides to Reckoning you and you have Harsh Winds, you just Harsh Winds them back. And now, listen, if I can't have units, you no longer can have units. We're gonna get a quick restart of this game.
Reset the boards. Go again.
Go again.
Yeah, that even though statistically there is a Jack Seraphine victory over Ash LeBlanc, that is the 40% outlier that we see manifested. And Reckoning being the exact card that we were thinking about. Well, not the exact card. I was thinking of a Rally because if you swing with everything, a lot of damage. There's no spells, which is very rare for Jack Seraphine to have. And even if they used the second lineup up in that last round, they wouldn't have been able to they would have been 1 HP off of lethal, which you know, you could have tried to bank on finding a warning shot, but since you used Call the Pack, you knew you were drawing the camouflaged horror. You had no other way of drawing anything. So really just kind of an unlucky luck of the draw for Jack Seraphine, but that is how it comes down to that 40% win rate, 42% win rate for really splitting hairs over it, but 40% win rate for the Ash LeBlanc deck specifically.
We saw its power. Like if the Call Pack was any other spell, it possibly could have been GG there. And we saw how close it is. Because mind you, like you said, with the Call of the Pack interaction, we there was no way we were going to get into any of our answers, and we simply needed to hope that our opponent wasn't going to kill us. Now, mind you, I don't think our opponent would have killed us if we didn't go for the draw. It's really good that we Palita ended up going for the draw, acknowledging that, okay, you know what? I don't necessarily know my opponent's hand. What do I need to take an account for? There's BB, there's Seraphine. I need to account for this removal. So, hey, maybe if they wipe this board, at least maybe not everything's going to be gone, and I can refill my hand and hopefully find some answers. And that's exactly what happened. We noticed that we drew, nothing happened. We had a pass back. And we're like, okay, shoot, I guess, you know what? This might be a very good hand read. I'm going to go ahead and go for the Reckoning, see if I can clear this board and go for this lethal swing right here. I'm on 3 HP. If I don't do it now, whatever gets drawn next very well may kill me. And we saw it right here. It was such a close game. Both players were playing really well, and you can really see in terms of how the game some of the turns were taking a little bit longer than normal. The players were just sitting there acknowledging all of the steps that they have to take, or the things that they have to consider, really thinking about the moves that they're going to make.
Yeah, exactly what had to happen. Just trying to find the exact answer to things was just what the Trifarian Assessor needed to do. They were down to 2 cards in hand, and they found exactly what they needed to win out. Just a real incredible show of skill from both players. And sometimes that's just how card games roll, right? Like sometimes you just don't really know. You don't really know what you're gonna draw. I remember back in the day when Lee Sin, before Lee Sin was rotated and everything, when I tried playing Zoe Lee Sin, one of the issues with the deck was consistently like, oh crap, I can't find Lee Sin. Where is he? He's in the bottom 5 cards of my deck. Why is he down there? You know, because you have
oh my god, the amount of times that happened to me,
dude.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure Porter feels my pain as well, playing Lee Sin Riven nowadays still. But with Lee Sin going like Zoe Lee Sin and having Lee Sin in the bottom 5 cards of your deck, you're just like, I can't find my win condition. I can't find my card to win the game out specifically. And it's not because off of the merit of how I was playing. It was just off of the merit of like, damn, the cards just did not line up for me whatsoever.
The cards don't line up. It is what it is.
How the game works, man.
It is how the game works sometimes. And not only that, you know, whether or not you're not drawing into the answers that you need, sometimes the RNG also isn't there, right? Jack Seraphine, or at least Seraphine in general, is sometimes known as kind of like the RNG queen, right? She's able just to suddenly, you know, on summon, gets that 2-mana spell that is the exact thing that they need in that moment, or the very next round, or even just later on in the game. And then, mind you, Bar can also do the same thing, and any of the other cards that are in Piltover that create other cards. You know, we saw that juicy manifestation from managed to get not only the obliteration spell, right? Managed to get the draw to refilled mana, and then not only that, ended up getting the Stuttering Songspinger, which is one of the most perfect cards to run in a Seraphine deck, given that it's basically 4 cards in 1.
Yeah. 4 cards in 1 that also funny enough, 4 cards in 1 that gives you 4 pieces of Seraphine's level up just pretty much immediately
Off the rip.
It is kind of insane just how powerful that card can be, and the number of times that you've been like, oh, I think we win this round here, and then no, your opponent hit Celestial Blessing, or they hit a Steel Tempest or something along those lines. I remember I think there was a tournament that we cast where we thought, okay, well, you know, this deck isn't swinging for lethal yet because it was a Glorious Evolution deck. It was Lunari we were watching, who was playing Glorious Evo, and we were like, doesn't really have the stats to go from you have the block with it. It was like a Swain deck their opponent was playing. And then Glorious Evo, they had Glorious Evolution plus Celestial Blessing plus a Seraphine on board to double up all of the stats to then get a perfect lethal off of that one card. It's so powerful. It is so ridiculously good.
Strong. That was a crazy game, because we really were sitting there counting like they did not have lethal, and out of nowhere within 2 seconds they're like, they have more than just lethal.
Hold on, we're just like I have all these cards here. I don't know. I'm gonna be watching the 3rd place match though. TKG Sam Sands, one of the best players in the America's Shard right now, playing the 3rd place match against Shaddoll Drgn. Fizz Samira against Jack Seraphine. This is a matchup that on paper does not go in Fizz Samira's favor, but we have seen some unfavorable matchups go the way of the unfavored, and this could very well be the occasion where Sam Sands manages to punch, or Sam Sands is able to punch through Shaddoll, and we'll see just how well that goes. Seraphine, good grief, I'm losing my mind. Samira's
Seraphine, Samira, Shaddoll. Like, listen, there's so many things that we got to take consideration.
I reiterate, too many cards. All right, like,
oh my gosh, but it's. What are the stats on these 2 decks? I'm curious, because I know, right, if we're able to get BB down, suddenly Shelly is kind of obsolete, because even though Shelly can buff everything, like, BB's just going to be like, okay, here's another keg. Deal with this.
Yeah, block this. So, stat-wise, Seraphine Jack has played against Fizz Samira in a total of 857 matches. The win rate is 49%. The 51 being in favor of Seraphine Jack. So it is a very narrow matchup, actually. And I think that it does give it, we can credit a lot of that to Fleet Admiral Shelley. Like, Fleet Admiral Shelley has consistently been a very good powerhouse. And the fact that you can't remove Fizz because Fizz is like, I'm just going to jump over things. And sure, you can say, yeah, Caustic Rift. This is the card that really can punch out all of the Samira units stuff on board, but you have to find Caustic Rift. That's the problem. You have to find this one specific card that you might only be and 1 or 2 of, depending on the variation of Seraphine Jack that you're playing. And that'll you know, that'll not go in your favor all the time. Also, I noticed that we swapped screens. I thought we were watching the Sam Sands match, but I did see that pop off on on my.
I think we did a last minute switch. So right now we're looking at Palita versus Vrado, a lurk mirror match.
Wow.
That is, I don't think it's as unpleasant as maybe, let's say, Karma said, but it is a rough matchup because it's so dependent on whether or not you can get your lurks going, especially if you're able to get Rek'Sai lurk. I know in my experience, if you're just simply not able to get the Rek'Sai lurk, it's a wrap. And already we see here, Palita wasn't able to get any lurk just yet. We're on round 3, so we're choosing to swing in with Rek'Sai. And Rek'Sai should be able to secure us a few lurks, catch us back up. Looks like we're, I think, only 1 lurk behind.
Yeah, we're 1 lurk prop behind, Rek'Sai being relied on to give the stats here. But the issue now for Palita is that because of Palita's current board and hand state, they will be behind on this next attack. Vrado can swing quite a bit of damage. In fact, they'll be adding Sharkling into the mix to make sure that they're able to guarantee a lot more damage now. Xerxai Collar is fortunately bound for Palita, which gives them the ability to swing here. But what do you have in return? You have Snapjaw Swarm. That's doing a little bit of lurk damage. Blocks with the non-lurk card, though.
Yeah, I get blocked with the long lurk card. You get to still get the trade in. Now you can go for a nice full juicy swing.
Guaranteed 10 damage.
Look at that.
Down to 4 HP. But Vrado taking Palita down to 4 HP, but also only having a singular card left in hand, and that is Rite of Negation. Now this, of course, is used to try and prevent any of the stack damage that Seraphine Jack or any other kind of Piltover and Zon list is allowed to stack on top of things. So I agree with the inclusion of the card personally. However, does mean that you are running low on options. Vrado does throw out the blood in the water, trying to see what Palita has available.
Ooh, rally.
It actually goes for the Zerxai rather, knows that they have the damage pretty much guaranteed at this point in time. Because of how Palita doesn't have anything. Because if Palita swings, they lose to the stats. If they block, they lose to the stats. So even though having the Rek'Sai having to go back into the deck afterwards loses the round for
it's a nasty mirror match. It's there's some mirrors that I just absolutely hate fighting. One of them being Darkness. We discussed it before. We've seen it plenty of times. Whoever gets the 4 first, you're probably in the clear of winning. Now, in terms of lurk, I think it really is somewhat dependent on whether either A, when you hit lurk, but also who's starting the attack token. There's a lot, many different factors. Like it's attack token, it's who's getting the lurks, who's getting their Rek'Sais, and in this case, we opted for the mirror match. Lost it, but it's all right. We're gonna go ahead and run that back. We are gonna get lurk into Quinn with both skins, mind you. Okay.
Boy.
Now, I want to say that Lurk has a chance of winning this, but it really is dependent if we're able to get our board wide enough, because mind you, with Quinn, your board isn't necessarily wide, right? You might have like a few one-drops here and there, and maybe you're a champion, but you're not going to really get wider until later on once you're able to maybe get your Quinn on the board, or you're able to get your Eternal Dancers on the board. Ooh, and Lurk has turn 1 with prediction.
Oh? Could go for... They go for the... I like the Xerxai Collar, because that means that on your next attack turn, you have that predict available. You're also running the Snapjaw Swarm. This is a beautiful pair for Palita so far. Even though they're going to be able to develop the Butler here. They're not going to be able to keep up board for very long if they want to make sure that the Snapshot Swarm doesn't continue to get value out of it.
Ah, misled.
Oh, a whiff!
Painful.
A swing and a whiff. In the words of our president, Joseph Biden, that shit looked like it hurted. So I'm pretty sure he said that. I don't know. Just like missing on lurk. That sucks. Man.
Oh man.
That's like the worst thing. I don't know why it's like been a thing that I've like doing lately is just out of pocket. Obviously something that a president would never say in their lives.
I'm crying right now.
Our great president, Abraham Lincoln, yo, my bad, dog. Like, that's just kind of, it's a great non sequitur sentence. But I'm derailing things.
I need to recuperate after that statement. It's like those AI voiceovers where the presidents or previous presidents are playing video games with each other.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm particularly fond of the Overwatch one that I saw a while ago. So.
The league, I've been watching the league ones. Those have been funny. I need to see a Runeterra one. The Runeterra one would be funny. Oh my gosh. Now, here's something to note about Lurk, right? When you have Snapjaw Swarm, sometimes rather than play it earlier on so you can maybe get those early lurks, it's sometimes better to save it as a burn tool for later, right? After your opponents have kind of you've gone back and forth with your opponent, blocking here, blocking there, getting attacks here and there. Finally, after all the mayhem has settled, you can go ahead and just snap off Swarm to try to end the game. We have a scout unit. Gosh, with quick attack, we only have 2 hollowed, so we are going to be able to block with Rek'Sai, preserve a unit. Actually, I like that line play. I can see why. I'm gonna make sure that we're getting that Rek'Sai back.
But
ooh. Okay, going for the pass, saying, you know what? This is fine. I could wait.
Yeah, that kind of risk losing the unit. There's really no point, especially when you know that you're playing against Lurk. You know that you want to keep going for those value trades. If your opponent is playing Rek'Sai on a defensive turn, man, that is like someone passing with full spell mana. The control player is screaming, like, take the pass!
I'm just like, no, the way that I've done that so many times, but like, yeah, you want to swing? Go ahead. Yeah, I have this big 6 HP Rek'Sai waiting to take this hit and kill whatever you got.
Come on, hit me. It's basically what it comes down
Now, we
to.
don't necessarily have Foyer yet, right? Foyer is a really important card in the Quinn deck. It basically gives you a unit every attack token, and it's free value. Shoot, like you get it on 3, you just keep playing it. It's gonna stack your hollowed, contributes to your game plan. When you're not able to get that or any of your hollowed stacks, the deck kind of falls off. It is incredibly important that you are able to. We do get the Rek'Sai hit.
Hit is pretty good. Palita, again, lacking a little bit of board, doesn't want to use the Aspiring Chronomancers because you don't want to predict that Rek'Sai away. You want to have both in hand because you can keep shuffling a Rek'Sai to the top of your deck, or keep using Rek'Sai to shuffle other things and get more lurkers and have more value off of that, so that you overall have more damage to swing back with. That's the reason why we might not see any development this turn, but with the way that Vrado is developing now, these swings are going to be scary. Those 3 attacks on the scout units now, do you choose to block the 3 attack, or do you choose the one with more HP? Sorry, 4 attack. I forgot they had 2 units die already. And then what do you do off of this? Do you play Rek'Sai again? Do you play the Aspiring Chronomancer to try and look for other options?
I can
right now, Palita is being crushed under Gwen Quinn.
Good.
You could see Chronomancer, and it is reasonable. You want to block.
Okay, getting another pike.
Team's Prodigy.
It's tricky because both players kind of have awkward hands, although I would argue that Vrato's is better given that we do have Quinn and Eternal Dancers. Right now for Palita, we only have double Rek'Sai and we're about to have double pike. When we did when we did the predict, we did decide to select Pike, if I'm not mistaken. It's tricky. Because like right now, like if you're playing as Vrado, right, you're seeing your opponent, you're like, okay, my opponent isn't really playing any units. I'm inclined to believe that their hand is expensive, right? They're either brick with multiple Rek'Sais, which could be a safe assumption given that we keep playing her.
Yeah. The nice thing about this attack for Vrado as well is that you can use the hate spike on the 2-1 to kill the Rek'Sai here and guarantee that your Rek'Sai goes through, or sorry, that your Gwen's damage goes through and stays on board. Second Rek'Sai is used to push the Pike back on top of the deck.
Listen to me.
Okay, so double Pike.
Double Pike?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
Pike
that's what it would
swings
mean.
for Pike?
It's a tricky hand to deal with.
What's the card that Vrado finds here? Personally, I think it's Relentless Pursuit. If that card is found, it is over.
I would even argue Cataclysm. Cataclysm could also be a good card to find, because once you get Eternal Dancers, you will have Cataclysm mana. I believe you'll also have the Rally mana, so both would be really good cards. That's basically what double Gwen, because Vrado is okay letting Gwen die for the simple fact that we do have Eternal Dancers that's just gonna resummon her.
It is true. It does burn the rest of your hand. Wow, we're actually just gonna
decides to keep it.
Outright kill Redeem Prodigy for it. Okay. Sure.
I'm not mad about it. I think either play would have been alright. I can see an argument being for Hate Spike to keep the Gwen alive, because that's already a body that you have to deal with. Mind you, while Eternal Dancers can resummon it, it's gonna be a problem in the sense. Oh look, Rek'Sai again! We're getting some of these predicts are always hitting Rek'Sai. We just been having a hard time swinging in.
That we have Vrado does. Yeah, I was gonna say Eternal Dancers is played here every single time. There's no way that it ever is. However, Rek'Sai is up to 9 power off of this, or 10 power off of this hit, which means that Pike is also up to 8 right now. Sorry, wait, what? 6? Hold on, why did I misread that?
No, I'm the swinging with
yeah,
the 8.
what I meant to say was Pike is up to 8 on the swing. Which makes it awkward for Vrado to block, but might honestly just be blocking with the Valor here, or even the Boisterous Host. So it's, even though it's a big swing and everything, it's not threatening a whole lot, because you remove a chump blocker and then the rest of the board comes through, including the Eternal Dancers, which has our favorite keyword, tough. In fact, we're not even gonna gain it with a block.
Don't even need to at all.
This open attack win.
And we can even start off with Scout if you want to.
I'm
gonna go ahead. I can see this. Go for Scout. I feel like Open Swing.
Doubt. Yeah, the Open Swing is so much better. Like, what do you have for interaction in Lurk?
I mean, I guess trying to take in consideration the Pike, but even then, if Pike was to come down here, it would have just been GG. The only unit that would have survived would be the Spell Shield unit. Actually, I will have to check on that interaction, because I know Pike kills the weakest unit. So, I mean, I guess if you start strong, then it goes down the line. I'm wondering if Spell Shield would stop the chain.
No, because I think it's an effect like Sejuani.
Oh, okay, like Sejuani.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think you're right. Yeah, that sounds more accurate.
Trading off the Gwen to guarantee the Gwen return.
We also have second Gwen in hand if we won't want to. This is a double Gwen.
Double Gwen? Yeah, double Gwen actually guarantees lethal too. Because you play Gwen, you swing with the Eternal Dancers. And let's just pretend for a second that Palita has the blockers here for this turn. The double Gwen itself, off of the double Drain,
There it
is
goes.
the end of the match. A 2-0 victory, a very clean sweep off of this very aggressive lineup that we were talking about earlier while we were waiting for the matches to start. Having that ability to go wide and consistently ask for your opponent to have interaction. And if in the case of Palita, they're not hitting those alert procs quite as frequently as they want to, we saw that one turn that they missed. And also not juggling the champions in the ways that they want to, you can see how Lurk just falls apart to other decks that are more consistent and also work better with a rally card. Now, not to say the Blood into Water is a bad card necessarily, but when you compare it to Cataclysm in Demacia, a region that can interact really well, it's a little bit tough to justify.
It is. I can see Blood in the Water being maybe a one of, like in my Lurk variants, what I do run it as a one of, and then something that I run as kind of like my spicy tech is Curse of the Tomb. I like being able to go use. I'm so serious. I go in with those overwhelm units after I've gotten a decent amount. They decide to block. I'm just like, okay, you're taking double damage now. Can you remove my unit or your unit so that you don't take this much damage? And if not, I guess it is what it is. I win. Mind you, it's only come up maybe a few times, but it has been kind of nice being able to get it. In at least with Palita's hand, what we saw is that we saw how Lurk can kind of break in itself, right? We drew into our champions way too often. We wanted to maybe have maybe a few more one drops, you know, have our other predicts. I think in that matchup, the only saving grace would have been to possibly get a second Pike spell, because with guaranteeing Pike's level up with 2 strikes, you need 8. Because even at 7, it's short 1 damage because it takes 15 damage to level up Pike. So you need to be able to Lurk 8, hit for 8, then the next strike spell will just go ahead and wipe the entire board. That was probably the only option that we had there. Fortunately, didn't find that, but nonetheless, a very, very good run. We saw how powerful Lurk was, and along with Palita's lineup, you know, with Deep and everything else that was that they decided to bring along, very strong, very powerful, goes really well into, you know, let's say Karma Set or even these other decks that don't necessarily want to block.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the great meta counter right now, is across the board Demacia decks, right? When I'm looking at, I love my stats websites. Runeterra AR, you are a blessing for people like me. Now, Ashley Blanc, of course, counters all these mid-range Demacia decks as we discussed earlier. But if you go down the list into the other more meta lists right now, Karma Set loses to Jarvan Jack, Galio, Udyr, Leona, Samira. Fizz Samira loses to Jarvan Alawi, Caitlyn Annie, and Caitlyn Jace. So more interaction on that front. And so on and so forth. Like a lot of these decks are losing to things that like to bring these sort of mid-range beatdown things. And I think this tournament was a perfect representation of how Leona Samira, Gwen Quinn, and Pike Rek'Sai were the decks that Vrado brought to the finals, just absolutely cruising over everything in terms of matchups. And so I think it was a really great read from them and a really good showcasing of just what is powerful in this current date and time.
It's so strong because, mind you, like as we mentioned when we were looking at the deck with the deck stats, right? Up above on top was Ash LeBlanc, followed by Leona Samira. After that, you'll have a few like 6 here, 4 there of just a few different variants. Mind you, Lurk was only brought twice. It was only brought twice, and Lurk literally made it to, I believe, if not mistaken, top 8. And then Deep in itself, I think, was a little bit more. We had 6 Deep decks. So decks that are able to really increase their power and really put on that aggression onto their opponent really show out. If your deck just simply isn't one that has the interaction to deal with aggro or simply just the blockers, you're kind of going to get steamrolled over. And that's what we always see with aggro. Anytime aggro comes out, I mean, that's why Fizz Samira has been such a pain in the butt for, you know, when the first meta was like kind of developing, right? Elusives, combo aggro type style beat. What do I do? A, you need to beat it back. Just, you know what, forget blocking. I don't care about these elusives. I don't care about anything. I'm just gonna beat you up. Deal with it.
Yeah. I'm gonna play a bunch of spells and see what happens. I mean, really, like the difference that we see between the two lineups there as well, with the neither of the decks. So I'm trying to get the right words out here. Let me restart things. When I'm thinking of specifically of these mid-range lists that we've seen, like Gwen Quinn and all of that, are then demanding a lot of blocks out of people. And the elusive decks with the Fizz Samira stuff doesn't want to block because you want to have those elusive decks or those elusive cards hitting face consistently. You don't want to block to lose that damage. But the funny thing is that on the flip side, when that damage does come through and when those elusives do go through, your opponent can't block them. So it's more of like, hey, do you want to interact with this? It's like, no, because I don't want you can't interact with me. I'm not giving you that option.
At all.
You are attacking turn. It's like it's kind of funny how that matchup then falls to your best defense is a good offense.
Yes.
In that matchup specifically, I think it's a very good way of summarizing it. And when you can defend well by having well-satted units that can also attack extremely effectively, you then run things over. You, like we've seen it all the way through.
All right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, great analysis. 100% agree. Sometimes the best offense really is the best defense, right? Now, everyone who is watching, this is the Lancers' first ever public tournament, and it has come to a close. We managed to get our top 4, which is vrado, Pala, Sam Sands, and Shaddoll. They are the top 4 winners of this tournament, and will be getting their payout. I want to thank everyone who participated, whether you are working production or casting like I, or simply participating in the tournament, or even just simply watching at home because you wanted to, see some nice Runeterra, see how these players are faring out right before the open this weekend. Thank you so much for working with us and your patience as we work through any technical difficulties. We appreciate all of you, and we hope to bring you more tournaments each and every week. And whichever one, we're going to try to get better and better. Kai, do you have any closing statements for us tonight?
No, I mean, beyond thanks for having me out, and I'm also really happy to have joined you guys for your first ever tournament. It's been a real joy to see across any sort of casting that I'm able to do the way that these metas turn out, and really excited to see what you guys have in the future for Lancers. And hopefully this was also like a really great learning experience.
It definitely was, let me tell you.
Yeah, you're like, oh, there's all this extra stuff. But no, you guys did great, and I'm very happy to have been invited to this inaugural casting and stream.
Of course. I appreciate you.
Thank you all as well.
Listen, I thought of I said, I need a partner. Kai didn't even question anything else. Wasn't gonna bother going to anything. Just asking. It's like, Kai, immediately. Where's Kai? I need Kai. That's my casting buddy. And hopefully once Mystic Shot tournament comes back around, we can get back on that stream as well and just start chit-chatting. Really getting into these tournaments. Like, I love it, being able to work with the community and everything and see how everyone fares out, and then we get to see how that turns out in the opens and in the worlds eventually. So again, thank you everyone. Really appreciate it. The stream is going to come to a close. If you have any questions, feedback, we will be sending out a feedback form. You can feel free to submit anything. Go, say anything. It doesn't matter. I want to hear it all. We want to make sure that we're being able to provide the best experience for both players and viewers. We want to make sure that's the case. So I bid everyone a good night, and thank you again for coming.